Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk'n TRM. Once again, I'm absolutely honoured to be bringing we were just talking about the level of friends that I have, and Matt's like right at the top of my kind of friends that I bring into the shows. So again, I'm excited. I'm just really looking forward to this chat because it feels like it's going to be a slightly different one and a different angle to what we normally do. So Matt, we met I think back in, we were just talking about it, maybe 2018, when you came into Blue Cube where I was working, and you delivered our mental health awareness training, and you actually your organisation also, I believe, made 2 of our employees MHFAs. I always get my acronyms wrong, so I had to really slow down then. I am one, although I do need to renew mine. And we met there, and I think it was just a sort of kindred spirit of people and caring, and we've become friends ever since. And I just wanted to I always try and give my guests a little bit of an intro about why you mean so much to me and why I wanted you, not necessarily on the show for what you do, but because of who you are. And I talk about it all the time. When I left Blue Cube, I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I had a breakdown. But you were one of the people that got me through that time, and I'm so grateful to that. And it's, I've wanted to have you on this show for such a long time because what you do is so important, and it runs through the core of every single thing that we talk about. So although listeners, it may feel like we're about to take a slight tangent, I often talk about travel risk management as this umbrella that brings things together in an operational sort of way. So we can have policies on DEI, on mental health, on physical health, and all of these things. But actually, travel is when you put them into action. That's when they test your mettle and actually see if they're worth anything. So today, it is just my absolute honor to introduce Matt Holman, a friend and CEO owner of Simpila, and I always say it wrong, but I think I've done it right today, to talk about what he does and actually where I feel he fits into this space. So Matt, please, welcome, and please tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, firstly, I just want to say a huge thank you. Thank you for being so kind to me at the beginning of this. And I think that's one of the things that I try to thread through everything I do, is that sort of ability. It's a beautiful gift that we have as humans, is the ability to be kind to each other, and actually saying thank you is a really useful way to remind ourselves that actually, people are going through things and experiences in their lives, and sometimes the kindness element is forgotten because we're so busy and consumed by life. And kindness sort of reared its head more when COVID came, and I think we talk about this a lot, but I think as we've come out of the pandemic and into this new world, we've sort of gone back to being too busy again. So we've lost this ability to sort of take a moment to say thanks, and that's what you did, and I love that. Thank you, Bex, because you're an amazing human, and I love you to pieces. So there's the mutual validation of our friendship. What do I do? So I am just a normal everyday human who has a passion for helping everybody else as much as I can. So I have one KPI. I run a business called Simpila. You did say it correctly, and it's interesting. The best way to remember it is to say, as I started my business venture, I wanted to simplify things. So it was all about making things a bit simpler. And the idea of my business is very easy. I don't have a very technical construction to my business, because everything I do is focused on one KPI, which is helping people. Helping people to me comes in every shape and size, and it doesn't mean that it's one stream that I work with or one strand that I work with. So mental health training is something that I deliver a lot of, or as a group with my company and my team and the people around me, we deliver a lot of mental health first aid training. We deliver a lot of programs around mental health, all different elements of mental health. But why is it that we're talking about travel risk management? Why am I involved in this conversation is probably the biggest question that people will have. I was a traveler for 20 years. I spent 20 years in business travel. I was a global traveler. I was all over the world, and I was a regular, frequent traveler, especially in the latter years, from sort of 2014 up until about, the early 2016, when I found myself on the sharp end of unemployment because I got fired on a Friday afternoon when I was in the US. And so that was painful. For anybody that's been through their own personal experiences with, workplace related mental health challenges. And I'm not saying it was all the workplace's fault. I never want to make that statement. But there's benefit, there's pieces that were my responsibility, pieces that were the responsibility of my employer, of course. And so that hurt a lot. And being a middle-aged man at the time, as I still am a middle-aged man, I'm not quite into that latter stages yet, but I'm still staying middle. I felt like I was failing. I felt like I was an absolute failure. I felt like I was all these wonderful things that come with mental health: worthless, helpless, hopeless, and I pretty much destroyed my career. So I had to create something else. That's where Simpila was born. That's how it came about. I'm very passionate about everybody. I have a lot of personal journey experiences with family members, with experiences with others, supporting amazing people. But what's become really important to me is this validation of the thought that says we need to learn to take care of ourselves first, prioritizing our health. I sat on airplanes thousands of times and I never watched the announcement, and I never took the announcement seriously. And I never, ever thought I would need to learn about using an oxygen mask. And the analogy of the oxygen mask is perfect for the industry. I don't work in travel anymore. I work across every industry. I work with companies across all businesses, because what I work with is people now and humans. And ultimately, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm chatting to one of my favorite humans on this planet, you, Bex, and whatever I can do to help, that's what I'm trying to do. So perspectives is important. I try and share what I went through with my experience of travel. I try to help educate people in terms of, my awareness of it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's absolutely the same for everybody. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Matt. Absolutely beautifully put, and just making me smile. So anyone who is watching this on YouTube will just see me glowing as he's saying all these wonderful things. But oh my God, we just don't say things enough. I happened to see a post on social media this morning, and someone was asking a question, and just within it, just everyone just came back. Well, not everyone, but the majority of people were coming back just being so offensive and so off. And you just think,
Wow.
I know that we're stressed, but come on, if someone doesn't know something, just be kind. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Or just be kind generally. I'm so taken aback when I say hello to someone in a store and they're like, I always say, how are they? And they genuinely go, I'm fine, thanks. And I'm like, seriously, no one, but I know what happens, and it is like that. So I think, well, you nailed it as to why you're here. There's lots of things that we can explore with this, and actually, we started this conversation. Well, we started this conversation years ago. It's great to see us both here. I'm a massive fan, and I think what you did is, the thing is that the experience that you went through was so typical of our time. Now it feels like there's not an excuse for people to be going through this, because actually of our time, people weren't talking about mental health. They weren't talking about risk management. They weren't talking about people generally. I often say that, the beginnings of HR sometimes felt like it was there to protect the company rather than protect the people. I think that's changing, and it has changed over the years to a degree, but it's there to kind of be that sort of middle ground. And, we were born into a culture of work hard, play hard. Your conversation around, I never even used to look at the travel safety video. I was the exact opposite. I literally kind of read it constantly because I was terrified. But I wonder whether that's this kind of image thing, this kind of, needing to be a certain way when you're traveling as a male traveler versus a female traveler. There's so much stuff that goes into this, and that's the whole point. We're people and we're all completely different. And that's why this conversation is so important. So I'm going to have Bruce McIndoe on this podcast soon. And I know that he's a fan of, obviously, travel risk management, but he's a huge fan of people risk management. And I think that's what I'm really keen to bring together today with you, Matt. So let's get into your why. We're gonna see where this goes. I know it's going to be interesting. So yeah, let's dive in.
Why anything? Why do we do what we do? Why do we love what we do? I'm so passionate about this subject, Bex. You know this, and the reason I'm passionate about it is because of my own personal experiences and my own personal journeys through this. As a traveler, I feel if I connect to that world, and I can connect to many parts of my life now. And one of the reasons, I'm just going to touch on that, why I didn't watch the safety briefing. And I think it actually touches on one of the most important things that we get to through the journey of our careers and our lives. We get to a place where we stop learning. We get to a place where we don't open up our sensory receptors to take on more information, albeit now we're in a world where it's so fast and so quick, and we can get information at the drop of a pin. But when I was in that place, I thought I knew everything. I felt like I was invincible. I felt like I was in control. I felt like all these things were I was able to manage. I had a family. I still have a family. I still have my daughters and my wife. I was lucky to sort of retain that as well, especially with some of the sort of things that were going on in terms of being away a lot and not being present very much, and just being absolutely shattered and tired when I got home from travels. And and my wife always gave me adjustment time, so she always gave me like 2 days to adjust. But I wanted to spend time with my girls, but I just felt I was tired, and that's a demand. So what is my why? Well, my why is I stopped learning. So now I learn every day. Every conversation is a lesson, education, whatever you want to call it. When I train people, albeit the program's exactly the same, every single person in that room is different. And that's what I love now. So I've enabled myself to look at the world through the eyes of many rather than just through what I think is the world. That's given me so much better perspective, greater depth. One of the other reasons of my why is because I am a Samaritan, and I'm proud of being a Samaritan, supporting people, again, giving me the opportunity to hear and listen to people talking about their own experiences. And why do I get up every morning passionate? Why do I get up every morning and say to myself how grateful I am? Because I don't have a job anymore, because I don't have to work, in the sense of I don't see my work as being work, because it's a passion, it's a hobby, it's an interest, it's something that I really enjoy. It's because of my girls, because of my daughters, and you know, they've struggled with some pretty heavy duty challenges in their lives, and they're young. You know, my eldest daughter is going to be 21 in this year, and so she's really struggled with her mental health for 5 years, and that's something that has really, of course, it could consume you, it could destroy you, it could take you to a dark place. But for me, I've used it as an alternative weapon to help others by taking the opportunity to talk openly. I'm unshackled now. I don't have, you know, the restrictions that I would have had if I was in the corporate world. And I know a lot of people feel that way. I really would like to talk, but I'm scared. I'm worried. And so why do I share what I share? Why do I open up and tell people about the fact that my daughter's been in hospital now for 3 years out of the last 3.5 years? Why do I tell them about what she's been through with their mental health journey? It's not to show off and wanting sympathy. It's just to say, it's why I love what I do, because I genuinely have a reason to be invested in this. And the other element that we can bring into this thought, you talk about sort of mental health and well-being in the sort of the opening is neurodiversity, because that's something that I was not even really looking at in the lens of any focus until 2020, when my eldest daughter was diagnosed with autism. And just earlier this year, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with ADHD. So, you know, this is something that's in my world. It's like I'm supposed to be here. Why am I here? Why do I do what I do? Because I'm supposed to be doing this. And that's how it feels. So, you know, and then I bring those experiences to life and I share that. And I love telling stories. And I've got a million stories of everything, because I've taken 7.5 years to learn everything about life. And I don't know everything about life, by the way, but I do know there's some complexities that every single person is going through right now, which links in a little bit to what you're trying to do with the travel risk management, which is one of the challenges, which is everyone's different, everyone's unique, right? We're all different, right? We're all different. I love that. It frustrates people when they're trying to put systems in place that capture everybody, but that's why I do what I do.
I love it too, and it's trying to get to this idea that we can't put everything in boxes. Can we stop putting everything in boxes, please? I know that's really I know that works from a systems perspective, but actually that's not who humans are. It's so interesting to hear. I just want to put a shout out, actually, because you recently did you just run the London Marathon, didn't you? For autism, for the Autism Society, and you got a personal best, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I knocked 25 minutes off my PB.
That's incredible. So I mean, talk about being inspired.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So
amazing.
you signed up for next year, right? You signed up for next year?
I've signed up to sponsor you for next year. Yeah.
All right, I'll take that. I don't know if I'm doing it next year yet. We'll see.
That's just my get out of telling you I'm not running. But let's just go back to that. There's some. Thank you for sharing your whys. I think this is what it comes down to. You know, in the boardroom, we can make these decisions, we can write these policies, and we forget that the people, whether they are the executives or whether they are the kind of, you know, the people doing the work, the operational guys and girls, they all are people and they all have families, dependents, of some kind, situations. And I talk a lot about this in travel risk management. I have a mantra, which is that basically anything that can happen, hopefully you're going to like this, anything that can happen to a human can happen when they're traveling. That's the first bit. That's the shortened version. And then we add on. And the issue with that is that it's going to be probably worse when they're traveling because they don't have a support network around them. They're somewhere strange and different. You know, I touch on, you know, the loneliness that can happen when you're a traveler. The fact that, you know, unfortunately, there is high suicide rates in hotels. And actually, how do hotels deal with that from a looking after their staff perspective as well? Because often it's housekeeping that make the first discovery of all of this. And it's just this kind of dark area that we don't talk about. Like a lot of other industries, we We make a lot of noise about how supportive we are about mental health. We then don't think about the toll it has on the people. If we can dig in a little bit deeper to your experiences of, the impact it had on you, sort of mentally and physically, I think it's really interesting that
Yeah.
you point out that, as far as you were concerned at the time, you were flying high. I had exactly that experience. I thought I was doing so well before I crashed.
Yeah.
And I clearly wasn't. Looking back on it now, I'm like, and I'm now, like you, I can talk freely about this stuff because I'm not. I can do what I want. I run my own
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about it because I think people don't talk about it. We put so much pressure on ourselves. People are scared of flying. Imagine, and then you've got to be squashed into the back of a plane because your company won't pay for even premium economy to then get to a meeting for 2 hours. Like, what is all this about? So, if we can take a slice into your life, and then I really want to feed back into
Yep.
the mental health piece and traveling as well, because I think the neurodiversity piece is just so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, there's a lot we can cover here, and and I sort of thinking about taking a slice into my life. I think I'll take you back to when I was in that final year of travel, because I think that was the one that really sort of highlighted some of the key challenges I was experiencing. You spoke already about loneliness, and I think if we overlay the reality of loneliness and travel, if you're spending a week a month, I was spending a week a month in the US, and that lasted for 9 months, and then it all went wrong. And one of the things that I found really challenging was being so far away from home. So I'm in the UK, and my family are in the UK, and I'm in the US. I had a team in Singapore, I had a team in Europe and America. I was working all hours, and my body wasn't really taking it well. I wasn't healthy myself anyway. And there's two elements to this. Was the thing about mental health, which is something we all have, but there's also the physical health element, and we sometimes don't connect the 2 points. So if you don't take care of yourself physically, it obviously impacts your mental health, but people don't necessarily realize that. But I wasn't looking after myself. So what did that mean? So I'd go away for a week, and the typical week for me would be I'd go to a hotel in the area that I was going to, and the office was about 500 meters from the hotel, no further. It wasn't that far at all. It wasn't even a mile. And I would go every morning about 7:30 to the office because there's nothing else to do. And every evening I'd walk back to my hotel, and I'd either catch dinner on the way back or I'd have dinner at the hotel. And I'd do that for 7 or 8 days. Now, of course, loneliness was only present when I wasn't with other people, or that's how it seemed, albeit now I can appreciate that people are very lonely in offices actually while they're on their travels and doing their things. And so for me, I spent all this time on my own, just thinking about things, and actually not good things, negative things, and worrying about things, and anxiety starts to rear its head. And I'm thinking, what are my children doing? What's my wife doing? When am I getting home? And I just had this attitude. I just wanted to go home all the time because I was so disconnected. And I used to phone home, and this is something I shared actually at a dinner once, and actually made somebody upset when I said it, because they then realized that was exactly what was going on with them. And it wasn't said to make people upset, and it's not that bad a comment actually, so I'm setting it up with a lot bigger impact that it's probably going to have. But I used to phone home from America, and I remember it was like my lunchtime, tea time in the UK, and my daughters who were younger at the time, we're talking about 7 years ago now, they would just say, "What do you want?" And it was almost like I was a stranger phoning into the house. And then my wife would come on the phone. She goes, "Well, I'm just doing dinner, and we've got to do the bath for the girls, and we've got to do this for the girls." And there was never any conversation about what was going on. All I genuinely craved was connection to the people that I loved the most. And when I lost my job, something magical really did happen, albeit that wasn't a magical moment. And that was my wife reminding me of where I was loved. And she said, "Come home." She said, "Just come home, and we'll work through this. We've always worked through challenges together." And it just then was that sort of that little glimmer of something.
Yeah.
And for me, that's something that I think we often miss is those home connections, those disconnections when we're talking about the time zone differences and the risks that poses. But I do just want to bring one other thing in there as well, because I saw this happening, and one of the things I called sort of out in 2017, 18, I guess, was this movement, or there's a movement from hotels towards, I call it ghosting in hotels. Okay, so what does that mean? It doesn't mean about people that have died and ghosts being present, albeit there might be some depending on where you stay. But what I was saying was, you can literally walk through the front doors of a hotel and never talk to a single human. And it was enabled by the hotels. And that wasn't about necessarily, that they couldn't resource. It was more about just, productivity or efficiency, I guess is what the word is. Efficiency is great, albeit, you need touch points with humans, because you need to be able to check people. Those people who go to hotel rooms and sadly who do, you know, end their lives, where are they touched by other humans, in the sense of, is there a receptionist that talks to them? Is there somebody that sees them in the corridor? Is there somebody that greets them? And that's something that did scare me, because you can order room service in your room. I think some hotels are putting gyms in your room, so you could do the gym in your room. Talking openly at a forum, became apparent that a lot of females will stay in their room, eat in their room because of safety concerns and all those things. And actually, these are all factors that we need to be establishing better understandings of. And, you know, that's ultimately some of the key points that I've seen, albeit there's many, many more.
Thank you. I want to I'm just conscious of time, and I know what you and I like. So I just want to drive back to this, talking about neurodiversity. It's something we don't talk about in travel at all. If you read the Daily Mail, you just think it's the newest fad and everybody wants a neurodiversity label these days.
You can soundbite that. Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Definitely soundbite it.
Yeah.
Matt thinks it's just everybody wants a label. No, it's something that's happening, and I've got lots of thoughts about this. You know, I think a lot of this is a reaction to how we live. You know, we're thinking, you know, we're not programmed to live in the way that we do. And over this sort of period of time and this stress and this kind of this environment that we've been in. And again, we talk about all this awareness of well-being and all this stuff that companies are supposed to be doing to support things. And then we almost joke about them because companies are doing it so badly. I mean, there's some amazing outtakes on mental health training for companies where people are so stressed and they're not actually dealing with that piece. They're just adding more sort of, you know, so what is all that about? But how do we, I think the bit I'm interested in is sort of neurodiversity in traveling. So I recognize myself as neurodivergent. I haven't kind of given myself a label because I don't really know. I just know that all of my life I felt like I've experienced things differently, and I've sort of been told by people throughout my life that I'm different, you know, throughout work, throughout everything. And some people like it and love me for it, and some people don't, you know, and I feel like I have to change and adapt myself to different situations. I'm a female, and I adapt probably. We mask more, I think, than men, don't we, from what we understand? And so I don't know. I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon Daily Mail. I'm just trying to understand who I am a little bit more. But I think that's what it ties into, is that we're all different. So my approach, whether I'm neurodivergent or not, is to how I might approach a trip would be similar to some people and completely different to other people. And I think that's the sort of thing that I want to sort of bring into this conversation a little bit. How do we make our travel programs okay for everyone, you know, accessible for everyone? We can't even make them accessible for people with physical disabilities right now. I mean, it's appalling. If you look at the airlines and what's going on with, you know, wheelchair access and actually destructions of people's wheelchairs, their life, you know, their movement and their freedom ultimately, because we just don't seem to have worked it out yet. How do we get better at this? And what are your thoughts on that? You know, with two girls now who potentially with neurodiversity diagnoses, what's your thoughts for them and what they would need if they were going to embark on a, you know, on a business trip in the future? And what are your expectations around that?
Well, you know what, I can give absolute fact, because my youngest daughter has struggled with anxiety when we travel every time, and she has ADHD, and her sensory receptors are being absolutely bombarded when we're traveling by information. And, you know, I think the thing, and it comes back to why my company exists as well, that simplifying thought, you know, of we're in a very complicated world. I'll give you my thoughts on why we're starting to see a surge in ADHD and ASD, and the other neurodiverse topics, because obviously dyslexia and dyspraxia and Tourette's and things sit within the neurodiversity spectrum. But one of the reasons I think we're seeing this is because, well, a couple of reasons. Firstly is we're raising more awareness. So as we raise more awareness, people can start to identify and notice things that maybe they understand in themselves. And that's not a bad thing, actually. The thing about self-assessment is a little bit scary if people are using it as a label to say, I can't do it because I've got ADHD, or I can't do it because I've got ASD. So I'm always very cautious with that. I think the other reason is because of the world we've been in, people have taken a moment to pause and to think about what's important to them. There's been this sort of moment to change. And as the world's all of a sudden gone from, you know, we went from that lockdown where it was a bit more peaceful, maybe. I know some people found it really stressful, so I don't want to just give it the balance of everybody found it like that, but we found it there was a bit more peace because we weren't traveling, we weren't doing, you know, all the things that we filled our busy lives with. As we sort of restarted the engines, what I believe has happened, this is my personal feeling, is there's been a bit of an earthquake. The ground's shaken. And when the ground shook, what we saw was the moving of the masks, and the masks started to change. And actually, so what we're seeing is the unveiling of the truth. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. This is what we need to do. So I do genuinely believe the earth movements have changed the way the masks are seen. So we now start to see traits of autism. We now start to see traits of ADHD. We see people starting to go, actually, I'm really tired, and I've just, you know, I don't know why I'm really struggling right now. The other factor that's happening right now with neurodiversity in particular is the misdiagnosis of mental illness. Now, neurodiversity is not mental illness. Neurodiversity is something that's, you know, you're born with, and it can develop. It can be attached to things like mental illnesses, like anxiety, but it isn't an illness. It's something that we have. You know, recently we had, in April we had neurodiversity celebration week. We didn't have an awareness week. We had a celebration week because what we were saying was that we've got all these amazing humans who've got some incredible skills. 10% of the population are deemed to be with neurodiversity, albeit that's not true because it's much bigger. And yet we don't embrace the reality of their skills. You have an amazing skill set. I have an amazing skill set, you know, and I say that with confidence that I'm highly probably likely with ADHD myself. But you know what? I don't use it as a tool to try and get myself any advantage in life. I just think of it as okay, so what are my powers? Hyperactivity. I get really excited and very, you know, I get into it. My brain is like a motor, so I keep on going, and I can work my best hours at this time of the day because my brain's going, now we're on, let's get going. And, you know, and then later in the day, I might be more tired because my sensory receptors have just gone, oh, we've overstimulated. We need to just have a bit of a break. So those things are really important. How do we get to a point in the future where we can help more people with neurodiversity? Well, I think we have to adapt the world to be neurodiverse, not neurotypical. And one of the things that's quite interesting with that, and I've just been working with a conference around bringing neurodiversity into conference and recognizing that maybe 90% of the conference delegates would be neurotypical versus 10% neurodiverse. I said, look, design a conference for the 10%, and the neurotypicals won't worry. They won't mind it. It won't make them feel upset or angry if there's a quiet room where they can go and they can get some peace. Even neurotypical people want to have a rest at times. I'm sorry, that's what we need to. So that's how we need to redesign this. And, you know, travel risk management needs to look at it through the eyes of people with neurodiversity. The best people to talk about neurodiversity are those people that see it with neurodiversity as part of who they are in their makeup. And so this is something we need to do. Workplaces, just a call out to anybody that works anywhere. Just talk to your neurodiverse people. Ask them how it feels when they travel. Ask them what you can change when they travel. It's so important. I was out with my daughter just last weekend, and my daughter was in hospital. So we went to a venue in Exmouth for lunch. And I'd never seen this in the world. You know, I'd never seen this anywhere. And I would love it if anybody out there has seen any of these. There was a sign outside. We are proud to support people with ASD. And it was like an entertainment space. There was a bowling alley and a cinema sort of thing. And then there was a restaurant, and the restaurant was really nice. But what we noticed in the restaurant was quite interesting was the tables were really well spread out. There wasn't a huge smell from the kitchen of food. There wasn't a noise. It wasn't noisy. There was no big announcements. The music was very low. The lighting was very, you know, moderate. And I didn't even consider what that meant until I saw the sign outside. The sign saying we are proud to support people with ASD. And it gave two options. It says if you have ADSD and you're struggling with the lighting, we could turn the lights down, we could change the noise levels, or we could give you ear cancelling headphones. And it said we're also accepting of people who scream, who maybe, you know, erratic. And it really, honestly, I've never seen it, Bex. And it was something that I thought, you know what, wouldn't it be nice if we had policies where we say we support people with ASD, and if you're traveling and it's too noisy, we'll give you an ear cancelling headphones, or we'll give you these, there's a thing called loops you can use. I saw these recently, which are quite incredible. And so we can make adjustments. But that comes from saying, we want to support you, not going, how can we support you? It's giving people support through, I care about you. It comes back to that first point I ever made, kindness and caring. That's what it comes down to. And the only way to embrace this is by saying to people, I want to help you. Tell me what's going wrong. Tell me how you feel, and then we'll learn. There we go.
And treat me, I mean, just beautiful. I saw that post on LinkedIn, and I'm grateful that you talked about that today, because I really wanted to kind of shout that out, because I think it's incredible. I've never seen anything like that before.
Nope,
I'm sure there are other places that, you know, do it. I'm not trying to suggest there isn't, but amazing, absolutely amazing. I think, you know, just thinking through your daughter's experience going through airports. I have exactly the same. I get headaches. I have to wear sunglasses for the whole time. People wonder why I wear sunglasses all the time.
Famous.
Not because I think I'm really cool.
Famous.
Yeah, that's it. 'Cause I'm really.
It's the entourage behind you, isn't it? Carrying your bags. That's right.
That's it, lovely. That's it. I don't even really travel anymore, darling. It doesn't fit in my sustainability policies these days. But it's the bright lights. I wear earplugs nearly all the time. I'm really overstimulated, and I have to go and rest after. I'm good with people. You know, people. I can light up a room, but I'm exhausted afterwards, and I can't talk to people for 2 days. This is the stuff that people don't see. I even had a chat with my sister about this, and she was like, "I just don't think, I'm not sure that you are." And I'm like, I don't think we're in a position to be calling people out as to whether they are or not. And she wasn't meaning it to be like that. No. But it's just, this is how I feel. So, and I'm actually feeling I can talk about this now. And how can we bring this into programs? So for me, it's about bringing people into this, into this space to have conversations when I'm writing policies for companies, including that space as well, and ensuring that we're talking to those travelers. I don't like this idea of being called out by other people. I've experienced that too. I had a boss that declared I might be autistic across the entire office space once, and I was just humiliated. So that's not the way to do it, because you don't. But it's exactly what you said. Like, we want to help everyone. What is it that you need from us? What would make it better for you? But you can't. You have to do it for everyone. And I think this is the thing that scares companies about some of this stuff, because we're saying dig deep, go and have conversations with your staff, go and understand this. And we like doing that, do we? But I think that's the only way, and that's what you do, and it's what you do every day, and it's what you preach, and what you talk about, and what you're passionate about. And Matt, I just adore every single part of you too. So the feeling is so mutual. This is a Matt and Beck's loving.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, and you've got your own Matt at home as well, so we've got Matts everywhere.
It's confusing. It does get a bit confusing. Basically, well, I suppose not. It's easier for me. I love all Matts. But look, we can talk about this more. But Matt is also, he doesn't complete. He said he is, and I haven't quite got him in yet. But he's going to be joining the ISO group, which is going to be developing 31030. So we can really bring this kind of piece in as well, because people risk management, travel risk management, sustainability, reduction, guys, it's all the same thing. We have to just bring this together and see it's about looking after your people and doing what's right for them. Thank you, Matt, my dear friend. Okay, so we have been listening to Travel Risk Bex interviewing, or having a conversation with, not interviewing, Matt Holman, friend, mental health evangelist, but just generally damn good human being and person, setting an example to the world. We will be back in another couple of weeks for another episode. I really hope that today's brought something different for you to think about this in a different way. That's all I'm trying to do with these podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. This has been Talk'n TRM. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.